Good morning again. Welcome back. All right, so today I should, in theory at least, be able to finish gross construction on the bench and get around to staining it. At least that's my goal. I've got a couple of issues that I've run into already. So the first is going to be the technique with which I raise the desktop itself. There needs to be something here first to complete the illusion, so to speak, to complete the look. Second, because obviously there's got to be, something to support the desktop itself. On the old bench, her name's Bertha, by the way. That's 2x4s. I'm not even sugarcoat, it's just 2x4s. On this one, what it's most likely going to be is more of this nice, beautiful, stainable, matching wood. But in order to do that, I'm not 100% certain how I want to put things together. There's got to be something holding the various pieces together. My current operating theory is that I'm going to get the boards cut and most likely use the drill press and I guess it's called countersinking. I wouldn't really call it countersink because I'm going to drill like halfway through that board so I can put this whole thing together with 3-inch decking screws. My goal at the end of this is to preserve the aesthetic of the piece such that it would be difficult to tell how it's put together when it is finally done. Like these will be wood puttied over and sanded before I stain. There's trim and everything that covers all the transitions. So it should be, a gorgeous as well as a functional piece when I'm done. But I'm still workshopping how that's going to work out, right? I can't believe it's taken this long for me to get around to making this point, but I should tell you guys, nothing that you're seeing here is anything that I claim to be the right way to do something. All I'm saying is that what we're doing works. If you've got comments, if you've got suggestions, anything like that, something I could do better, something I should do different, something I can fix, please tell me in the comments, right? I may have already thought about it, I may have had a reason that I didn't do it, but I'd love to hear about it. I want to talk to you about it. I always love to learn new things when I do these projects, and that's half the reason for doing it. While I'm working on that, at some point John will join me and we'll probably get this wall finished up. You can see we've already got cuts in here, right? So this is going to be, let's call it an accent strip, I don't really know. But we need a place where we can put things up as necessary. So what we're most likely going to do is skip about 10 or so inches in the middle of the wall, and we'll put either cork board or possibly a piece of brushed steel, something in there that we can either magnet or pin bags and jobs and things, and stuff that we're working on too while we're working on it as things progress through the work area. But let me get to cutting these boards and I will figure out what's going on and we'll get this bad boy finished up. Alright, I got my pieces cut and they look like they fit just about perfect. Right? Now, hopefully it'll show up on camera. If not, I'll make sure that I get pictures for the gallery. But there are actually 2-inch fine thread drywall screws that are holding these tops in place. The reason being is that, I'm sure you saw me messing with them, there are these slide out leaves, right? And then these are areas that simply can't rely on pin nails or anything short of a screw to be trusted to be held in, right? They're going to be load-bearing work areas, right? So those need to be held in. But these leaves beautifully cover the ones on the outside, right? No problem. Just the way that they're supposed to. And the ones on the inside will be wood puttied over, and you won't be able to see them either. Right? So let me get a look at what this looks like, and let me decide how I'm going to put this together. I still haven't come up with anything better than the decking screws, but, it's probably not an issue. We'll see. That side's going to need some adjustment, but the rest of this is probably fine. So think we're going to mark off my screw points and get to drilling. Follow along, we'll see how it goes. So I've just drilled my first hole and I've run into a problem. You can see this board's very long, so it requires a little creativity accommodating the drilling. And I did not think to look before I started this, but apparently the maximum stroke depth on my drill press is only 2 inches. And I need 4-inch deep holes. Probably gonna have to start these with the drill press and finish them by hand with the drill and pray for the best. We'll see. So that's the back board with the holes countersunk. I have to get this attached first before I can begin with the sides because they're a smidge off and I need to know how far they're off before I get too crazy. Not sure how, but I'm only off on this side. So I'm going to trim this up. Then I guess break out the drill press and keep going. Give me just a sec, I'll be right back. Alright, I've got my sideboards cut to fit and the holes drilled. Now I've got screws loaded into those holes and I've got a slight problem. It's not really a problem, it's kind of to be expected when you're working in natural materials and aren't somebody as straight up baller as, for instance, a samurai carpenter. That guy wouldn't have any of these problems. I highly suggest you check out his channel if you have any interest in woodworking. The issue that I'm running into is, I think, an issue of squareness. Either all of my cuts aren't square or something isn't quite lining up here. I know this backboard for sure has a very slight bend in it or a dip somewhere. So things aren't lining up 100% the way that I want them to, but that's fine. So what I'm going to do before I screw these in place is use that pin nailer that you saw me using previously. And I'm going to pin nail these to lock the fit in before I go ahead and run the screws in the way they need to be. Alright guys, so as promised, John has joined me and he is working on the wall tile behind me. This side is in and good and nice. This side's giving me trouble. I've got this front screw in and my edge is as square as I figured it was going to be. The back side's giving me trouble though because apparently at some point that kinked or the screw just didn't go in straight. So I got to re-drill that hole. The important takeaway is that if it didn't work out the first time, screw it, just drill a new hole. Both of my sides are in here, and they're nice and stable, sturdy. They'll be even more so when they're actually attached to the top and can't wiggle at the top. I've got some trim to cut, and then there's some stuff on the inside to work on. But I'll get a much better shot of what's back here that I kept from you yesterday. in just a minute. Let me get this trim cut, get that attached, and see where we're at. So I got the trim installed. Hopefully that shows up on camera. And again, if it doesn't, I'll have higher resolution pictures in the gallery. I've got to go through and find all of the nail holes and screws and all that kind of stuff, put in my wood putty, and begin my shaping. Because I'm going to get this bad boy stained today. That's happening. So I've wood puttied all of the top here, and you can see it should still be pink right here. As this dries, it'll lighten to the correct wood color. And once everything is nice and dry, I can come and take sandpaper and everything and come in and do my shaping, right? And once that's done, I can begin staining. Alright guys, so all of the wood putty has been applied. I need to wait for it to dry I need to wait for it to dry before I can sand it. After that, I'm probably going to have to get the top for this thing and take a look and see if there's anything I need to add before I get to the staining phase, because the top's not going to need staining. Everything else that I have added will. So while I do that, I will tell you guys this. There is another YouTube channel. It's called Bad Obsession Motorsports. It is run by Nick Blackhurst, and he is, along with his partner Richard Running, restoring, I guess not restoring is not the right word, turning into a monster an original Mini. Right? The project itself is inspiring, but what I love most about them is that they will show when they hit a snag, and of course they're British, so they solve all their problems with a cup of tea and a think. Unfortunately, I am American, so I'm going to need a Red Bull and a Ponder. While I drink this and take a look and think about what I need while this dries, let's check in with John for another episode of, Hey John, what are you doing?
Oh, so we're supposed to be filming this. Yeah. So what we're doing is I've taken some of our floor tile and I've cut 3/4 inch strips that we're going to take here, and we're going to create a border. And then I'm going to come here and I'm going to create a border on top of this. So this is just a ledger board. So we put up a ledger board to guide me on what I'm going to put here. I'm now installing this side, of which you can't see right now, and then I'll start laying tile.
I've got the tops and bottoms more or less sanded to where I want them to be. There are a couple of gaps on this side. I'm not 100% certain why. Most likely because the entire thing is hand built and there's a certain amount of wiggle that's got to be there. That's one explanation. The other explanation is I wasn't careful enough when I cut my wood. Whichever way it happens to be, not really important. What I'm going to do, because I can't putty in the gap, it's too big, I'm going to have to take some cardboard. And if you're trying to replicate this, try and find something that's like this. It's kind of squishy, but it's almost weathered, right? So I can really get it in there. And then I've got a scalpel. I'll come back and shave off what is, the top, just below the line of the wood piece. Then I can putty into that. But see, when I come back to sand, I can still sand through this, so it won't be an issue. Alright guys, the day has gotten away from me, I'm going to be perfectly honest. I got the wood putty put in to this bottom pedestal, but the layer I had to put in order to fill what needed to be filled, including that cardboard, is still
fairly deep. It's going to take a while to dry to the point where I can sand and shape it adequately. So I'm going to have to leave that overnight. Like I said before, this is all kind of a organic work in progress, essentially. I'm going to tackle things as they come to my attention. So while I wait for that to dry, I've got some trim that we had originally picked up for something else. I don't remember what it was for. But it actually looks really good on this inside lip. So I'm assuming you can't see it from where you're at over there. No big deal. I'll take pictures and put them in the high-res gallery. But I'm going to go ahead and attach this on the inside and outer edge here so they don't look so straight and angular and weird by comparison to everything else. This is shaping up to be gorgeous, guys. So I wanted to get to staining today, and it's just not going to happen. I've got to wait for the wood putty on the bottom of this pedestal to finish drying. And of course, I'm going to have to come back in tomorrow morning with a little more wood putty and fix up, you know, the trim that I just installed. But it shouldn't be a big deal. There's not nearly as much involved in fixing up the trim as there is in waiting for that to dry. First thing tomorrow morning, what I can do is sand everything down the way it needs to be sanded down. I'll put down a drop cloth and commence the stain. It's going to be dope. As always, thanks so much for being with us. If you'd like to see the gallery of the high-res images that go with this post, of course, click here. If you want to see the next video, click here. We'd love to hear your comments down in the comment section. Remember to like and subscribe. And can't wait to see you guys tomorrow. Stain Day. It's going to be amazing.